Welcome to the Grow Podcast. I'm Pastor Mike with New Hope Network. We're here to help you take your next step in your relationship with Jesus. I'm so glad you're with us today.
What's up, New Hope family? Welcome to the Grow Podcast, episode 100.
Episode 100.
Woohoo! Rock us applause for episode 100. My name is David. I am so glad that you joined us today for this very special episode of the Grow Podcast. With me, as always, is Pastor Mike. Hello, Pastor Mike.
Hello, David. Episode 100.
Congrats on 100 episodes, plus some other ones that didn't get numbers, so we didn't count them. So this is already more than 100, but we're pretending that it's not 100.
I normally have some kind of sarcastic thing to say about all the numbers, and I've been racking my brain for weeks, and I've got nothing other than I can't believe we made it this far.
We did it. We made it
that
to
we
100.
have that much to say.
You have that much to say.
You say that every time, but
we've
somehow I think you're more than capable of it. But
I think this is my 100th episode because I believe we've done 2 episodes that didn't get numbered, like 2 special one-offs, but I missed 2 of the regular ones. Mm-hmm. So this is my 100th episode. So that's really why we're celebrating. We're just celebrating me.
That's why we have the balloons and everything.
We have a lot of balloons.
We do. Thank you to Pastor Andrea and New Hope Family Ministry for that. That's awesome.
Can we get raucous applause for? We do have, much like we did for episode 50. We have our producer cam set up.
We do.
So Michael, who almost always produces,
here I am,
is here, and he's on the producer cam.
And
you didn't have your book up though.
One of my most interesting books.
I don't know what you're talking about. Your book. This is just Michael's normal reading.
Talking to me, so I was being polite, and I put it down for the moment. But
get back to your studies.
I brought with us the picture from our
that's
50th. Yeah, our 50th.
Well, that picture
podcast
isn't from our 50th.
But I got this at our 50th when I won that contest. I won that contest. You would be furious
that loss,
no matter what. And we have
cupcakes, which we're not direct. They're the blue ones.
Match. They're blue ones.
Just
it's like the app, the blue one.
And if you download the app, Pastor Mike will hand deliver a cupcake to your house.
No,
we're not doing that. We canceled that idea.
One thing I discovered putting these cupcakes on the plate is the blue permanently stains your fingers.
My plan once I saw those was get Pastor Mike to eat one at the beginning of the podcast.
I'm smarter than that.
So that your face is blue for the rest of the podcast. No. Unfortunately.
No.
Apparently it's not
but the frosting does taste good. I will say that much. Tastes very good.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big frosting
I have blue
guy.
spots all over my fingers now.
Are you sure that's not just a sign of...
Could be old age. Was that what you were going to say?
I was waiting for Michael to try
to say.
Poor circulation.
There you go.
Yeah. Caused by
a number of things.
Yeah.
Any number of things that could be accumulated over a certain number of years.
Yeah. Did you give up reading there, Michael?
He finished that book.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm on to the next one.
Yeah. So we will. We're gonna just have some fun today, but we are gonna have
you don't know what to call it.
I don't even know what to call it. There'll still be some teaching time, but it's not going to be the entirety of the. I shouldn't say the entirety. We always goof around for a bit.
Yes.
Well, I remember because we didn't goof around a ton early on, and then I started just adding that in without telling you that I was going to add it in, and you would always be frantically looking at the clock, how long have we not been? I'm like, it's okay. We're going to get to it. So hopefully, if you haven't liked just the goof around time at the beginning, that's completely my fault.
I've had a few people say, I tried to listen, but it was just nonsense. I'm get past the first few minutes.
Give us more than 3 minutes.
And if you notice in our notes that I prepare, I now just put at the very beginning, this is the first one I haven't in a while. I normally just put nonsense.
Well, that's because this was just had episode 100 on there. So
yes, I do.
We're just going to...
Yeah.
Let's just list all 100 episodes in order by memory. Could you do that real quick?
No.
You did. You had a question in here that I looked up the answer to. Would you like to ask that question?
Yes. What has been the most watched or listened to of all of the Grow podcast episodes?
Do you have a guess?
The 50th.
Incorrect.
Really?
That's in the top 5.
Okay.
That's
wrong one.
Thank you. No. You'd have to be. You have to. You wouldn't be egotistical if you answered
I know
this,
which
but
one.
you'd have to.
One where we talked about my resignation.
Processing with Pastor Mike, I believe, is what we titled that episode. That is our most listened / watched episode for sure. Yeah. But the second most listened was episode 1, so it was all downhill from there.
It's like, no, I don't need to listen to this anymore.
We'll try it out, and then we'll find out he's leaving, and we'll watch it one more time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll come back to this when he's leaving, but not until then. And then they all came back. Yeah, that was so episode 1 was the second most. The third most was a special episode that we had, a non-numbered episode. Do you remember?
Was it the one with Tom Lundeen?
It was.
Yes.
Yeah, it was when we
had a couple of them.
We were in Minnesota, and we filmed it with my dad.
In the fall of 2021.
The good Reverend Tom Lundeen. 21 or 22? Wasn't it last fall?
22.
Yeah, 22. That's our third most. I'm sure we had a few Riverside, which is his
People
church.
us,
few eyes from Riverside on that one. The next one was, which I was certain episode 50 was going to be next after that one, but it was not. Episode 6 on the Holy Spirit. Was
That's
the next one. So, and really was the only is the highest views of a non-abnormal one, right? Like episode 1's our first ever episode. The processing with Pastor Mike one was, obviously very specific, and we even emailed that one out to people too, just to kind of, help them be a part of that conversation. The one with Tom Lundeen was different, but the episode 6 on the Holy Spirit is next, and then episode 50 hidden, which we did have a lot of views and eyeballs on that one. And then episode 92, Why the Cross. That's our next highest on YouTube, but if you add YouTube to Spotify, like if you add Spotify and Apple Podcasts, then episode 71 on Judges comes in next, because that one had more audio listens, but just a couple less
That's fascinating.
on YouTube. So Judges, Why the Cross, and the Holy Spirit were up there with kind of some of the special episodes we had, including episode 50, where you completely robbed me of the prize that I should have won. There's a reason Hattie is not here, and that's because she's not invited back after I.
And the reason why I brought the cupcakes instead of Hattie's, so we got much worse cupcakes than we would have. Let's be honest.
It wasn't even a
Walmart
cupcake.
specials.
You don't even remember what it was because you weren't as engaged as I was.
I brought
and somehow still got the prize. Michael, your vote. You voted for him, which was a travesty.
Yeah, it was like voting for the worst of the worst. Though. Like, which one's a little better than the worst?
You could read the words on mine.
It was decoration.
You know what?
It was
good. Because you're gonna need to find those pictures and put them in right now on the video podcast.
They're probably gone forever.
We can find the screenshot from episode 50 where we showed them then, because mine we both wrote. We had to write words on them.
Well, let's be honest. Anytime I have to write words, it's a travesty.
This is what happened. We had to do the Grow Podcast logo, and I had green on mine.
Yes.
And everybody was like, there's no green in the logo, so they voted for yours. And then the person who created the logo confirmed that it's green. And I still am furious. I'm clearly not over it. This is actually an intervention for me.
You know what? We're going to add another episode and talk about forgiveness and bitterness.
We've done that before, actually. Let's jump
maybe
into
you need to go back and listen to that
let me
again.
go into the archives. Michael, what's your favorite ever Grow Podcast episode?
He doesn't listen. He falls asleep once we start.
Well, not anymore, because you stole his comfy chair that used to be in the podcast room.
I did enjoy the parenting one.
That was a recent one.
Very interesting listening to.
We actually, that one, we saw
I'm not going to implement anything from it.
We did see a spike in listens in the parenting one. I think a lot of people like when we talk about parenting.
What was the other... you guys went into like the deep history of everything church related.
The deep history
we
of
did
everything.
Kind of one on church history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was... was it the time between the testaments?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, that was interesting.
That's last year.
I got some really cool feedback about that one.
Yeah,
that one was like that was one of my favorites ever. Was the time between the testaments episode.
Some apocryphal.
Yeah, we talked some about the apocrypha. We talked about just that time of history where we just in the Bible we don't see anything. Obviously, there's a lot of recorded history from that time, but we don't see anything. Really, anytime we got to nerd out on history.
All the history nerds came out.
Yeah. Well, yes, but I enjoyed it, whether they did or not. Those were some of my favorites. What about you? Did you like a cupcake? Michael, please eat a cupcake.
I don't know if I can move and get back to my
intern.
same
We have an
location.
intern here.
Intern Michaela.
Oh, she's
Our
stepping
intern.
on-
Hi,
stepped on
intern
screen.
Michaela. Intern Michaela is going to pass some cupcakes out.
Thank you.
I hope Michael's face is completely blue by the next time we cut to him. That's what you want. Would you like one, intern?
You know I would.
Excellent choice.
Didn't take a chocolate one. I'm kind of
Michael took
disappointed.
Which one are you going to take?
I'm going to take a chocolate one.
Go for it.
Yes.
Make
you
it
just,
happen.
You just want me to have
No,
blue frosting all over.
I would never want that.
You know what we don't have in here is napkins.
Happy 100 episodes.
Yes.
It's a lot of episodes.
It is. It's kind of amazing that
Almost 2 years we've been
we
doing
made
this.
it that long and that people listened that long.
And now are watching us eat cupcakes.
Yeah. I'm going to do this.
It's a pretty good cupcake.
Yeah, not bad.
I'm not upset
Not
about
bad for a Walmart special.
Yeah, way to find those, Pastor Mike.
$4.98 or whatever it was.
it. Feels like it's become an episode of
Yeah.
Supermarket Sweep.
Not
Man,
bad.
I don't know if our intern gets that reference. Have you ever heard of Supermarket Sweep? Oh,
They
man.
did a reboot though.
We're old. Oh, did they?
I don't know, 5
Okay.
years ago.
Your teeth are all blue, Michael. And that
All
makes
your
makes
your
me
teeth
very
are
happy.
blue.
Makes me very happy. Yeah, I didn't bring anything to drink, so now.
Oh, that's even better.
Talk
This-
like this
This is
without
why
some
I
of my teeth
always
are
have
thin.
my various beverages with me every time we record the Grow
That's very good.
podcast.
In case your teeth.
Just
are
in
blue
case my teeth are blue. Michael just gives me a sign off camera. I'm like, oh man, my teeth are blue again. And we go from
Yeah,
there.
you asked me my favorites. Man,
Yeah.
I enjoyed one of the recent ones we did on the Book of Revelation, just being able to unpack
Sure.
that a little bit more.
Yep.
It was one of my more favorites. We did have a lot of fun in episode 50.
Yeah.
The Q&A.
The Q&A was a
Q&A
lot of fun.
was fun. It was challenging.
Yep. That the aforementioned Reverend Tom Lundeen sent in a ridiculous theological question
It was-
for you.
A great question. Yeah.
Yeah,
was
that was a good one. I listened as I was going through. I was like, man, episode 6. What did we sound like in episode 6? But then I listened to probably 10, 15 minutes of which was most of the podcast. We were pretty strict to like
We kept
20
it
to 25
much shorter
minutes at that time.
than we do now.
But that one in the Holy Spirit was awesome. I really, really liked the teaching in that one. So I understand why that was one of our most viewed ones.
We went downhill from there.
Because that one, yeah, we really lost it after 6. But I would like you to edit in your last bite of that cupcake because you
Not doing it.
looked up sheepishly and then tossed it in your mouth and it was amazing. And I want everyone to see what I saw. Michael is.
My fingers are blue.
This is only the second time Michael has joined us,
Yes.
and it's for 50 and 100.
Welcome.
So it's
Good
fun
to
to
have
have
you
you
here.
on
Do I
here,
get to come
Michael.
back at 150?
We'll see. We'll see.
Are we gonna make it that long?
Well, we'll have to. You know what? We'll have
You
to
will.
talk to whoever is leading the teaching on the Grow podcast
That's
at that
true.
time. Which we don't know who that will be for 150, but we do know who that will be starting in episode 103, joining us in episode 102.
Yes.
You
You confused me there for a minute.
Yeah, your last time on the Grow podcast will be episode 102. But joining the two of us that week will be Pastor Leo, and then going forward from there until we
During the interim, yeah.
during the interim time will be Pastor Leo, who is the lead pastor of one of our church plants, Pagasa Hundug Church.
Good job.
PH Church.
PH
Nice.
Church.
It's easier to say. Thank you, Michael. Would you like to say the language that they speak in the Philippines?
I believe it's Tagala.
Is it Tagalog? I
Tagalog.
feel like I hear Tagalog.
No, Tagalog.
Pastor Leo, could you come in quick?
We'll,
He's here. No,
we'll
no,
have
we didn't.
him correct us when he gets.
The first episode where it's just me and Leo, we'll just
Yeah.
be breaking that down for like, he'll be trying to teach me to say it properly for 35 straight minutes. We'll get nowhere. And
He'll
then we'll
say
say
it,
we'll
and
see.
then you'll say it.
Yeah.
He'll say it, then you'll say it.
Yeah.
But Pastor Leo is an incredible teacher, a very, very wise man. I'm very excited to do. And I have a lot of fun with Pastor Leo as well. So I'm, hopefully I think one of the things that's been really cool about the Grow podcast has been our relationship. That's, come through, and hopefully we've made all of you who listen or watch feel like you're a part of the conversation and a part of that relationship that we have. But I'm excited about Pastor Leo because he and I have a fun relationship as well. And I think he's got, now I'm a little concerned because he's also very sarcastic. So we're going to double up on the sarcasm, which might be a problem.
It'll be
but
fun to watch.
He'll rein us in enough, I think. But I'm excited for that. Episode 102 will kind of be the three of us. And then going forward, I think it's going to be really fun.
Good.
If Pastor Mike does not agree. He's furious that we're replacing him.
No, my iPad was doing some weird things. I'm like, okay.
No, he actually, just to clarify, that was the sarcasm. He is not furious that we were replacing him on the Grow podcast. It was not that it was necessarily up to you, but you were like, no, we need to keep doing it. Let's figure out who it's going to be. And I don't think Leo fought you too much on it, did he?
He was excited about it because PH Church is actually, they were planning, and they still are planning on starting their own podcast. Yep. So this will kind of be an intro for them. He'll help out the New Hope Network.
Yeah.
And then coming out of this, once the new lead pastor of New Hope Network comes in, they'll begin a PH Church podcast as well. So,
by then I will be fluent in Tagala, and I will host that podcast with him. It's going to be fantastic.
That'll be fun to watch.
I think we should do one episode in Tagala, but I obviously don't speak it, so I just ask my question in English, and he only responds, and then I just definitely Leo.
Just make sure you subtitle it, all across.
Yeah, that's probably
a good captions.
Idea. But Michael, who would be adding those subtitles, also doesn't speak it, so they'll just be whatever Michael wants to say that.
So, funny moment.
Just be a rant about farming in North Dakota.
Kylie and I were meeting pastors in where we're going to be in the Pacific Southwest. So we have several churches that are in are from different ethnicities, and many of them don't speak English. So in one of the places where we meet with pastors, we're speaking through a translator, and Pastor Kylie was speaking through the translator, and she did what she does incredibly well. She began to tell a story, and she just kept telling the story and telling the story. And Pastor Gill, who's a friend of mine, was looking at her kind of like, when are you going to pause so I can translate? And finally, so she went on and on and on. Finally, I just kind of said, he needs to translate. Oh, okay. So she kind of finished up the story. And then he just said, it sounded like just a sentence. I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, what'd you say? I just said, she told the story. It's a great moment.
That's fantastic.
So,
well, this weekend was the last weekend
Memorial Day weekend
of our Celebrate series. You talked about celebrating change. Everybody was just so excited.
Everybody
about
loves
because people love change so much. Like, for instance, I love that Michael's teeth have changed colors and are now blue, and I hope that everybody can see. I hope that everyone can see that.
Correct that.
Yeah, he's going to color correct his teeth. He'll have the whitest teeth in history. Yeah. They'll just. Did you ever watch the show Friends, Michael?
A little bit,
Did you watch Friends? Did you see the episode where Ross gets his teeth whitened? And they're so bad that even with the lights off, they're like glowing. That's what Michael's going to look like when this podcast is edited and color corrected. But you talked about change.
It's kind of timely because as a church we're going through some change right now.
What a coincidence that happened. Okay. But how do you feel about change?
Me? I like change as long as I'm the one who comes up with it.
So you're like most people.
Or I get to control it. If I don't have to come up with it, as long as I get to control it.
That's fair.
Or I like change that I like. Is that profound? It's like, I don't know how comfortable I am.
I like change that I like.
Yeah. But we all have different views of change.
Michael, do you like change?
I love it.
I don't believe that. No.
Michael's a good North Dakotan. No. Change is not in his blood.
Yeah.
I like change that I like.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear that?
Where did you hear that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I think you were going to continue on, it seemed like, but I wanted to get Michael's input because I knew he's from North Dakota and he had changed, but our church, in fact, our two campuses, in-person campuses are located in North Dakota.
Right.
Where a lot of people might fall in that same.
And it's not just North Dakota. Let's be honest. People in general.
It's true.
The only change we really like is the change that's our idea.
Yeah. And the church has a history of struggling with change.
If you were to ask people throughout history down through the years to describe the church, a relevant, change-oriented organization, those are not the kinds of descriptions that would come to the church.
I think that is very fair to say.
In fact, I think the church, sadly, has a reputation. What are you reading over there?
Christian theology, obviously.
Old Christian theology, yeah. It's one of my old, speaking of change, that's one of my old Christian systematic theology books.
Oh, how old? Let me look. Let me find the
it's old.
Publishing date.
Yeah. But I think the church, if anything, has a reputation for being resistant to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe the reason for that is because of bad theology.
How so?
Well, I think there's two things. One,
And will you list all the people you think have bad theology
yeah.
in the current church?
Sure, I
That'd be
can.
great.
We'll run out of time. But I think it goes back even to the leaders in the spiritual leaders in Jesus' day. You think about this; they were resistant to change, so they were trying to protect their own power. They're resistant to change of the status quo, and there's this whole idea that, for some reason in the church world, we think that we are somehow the protectors of goodness and of godliness and of morality, that we're supposed to protect that. And you say, well, aren't we? No. Think about this. What good came out of the Crusades? There wasn't a whole lot of good, but the whole church went into the Crusades saying, it's our job to protect. And anytime you have people in the name of God who think that they're guardians of it, that it ends badly.
Yeah.
Because then we begin to, protect things, and it goes, it just goes wonky. I think the other thing is, we, even in the church, we tend to build our security on the wrong thing. What we think and what we perceive as stability is something that doesn't change outside of our control. But what we miss, and this is where we're messed up theologically, Scripture teaches us, and we've talked about this a lot on the Grow podcast, go figure, we were designed for growth. You go back to Genesis. Even before sin entered in, God gave Adam and Eve, and ultimately humanity, the charge to do what? To oversee, the word literally can be translated superintend, to cultivate, which means to grow, creation. They were designed to grow in their leadership. They were designed to grow in their understanding. They were designed to grow and to superintend the growth of creation. We were made for growth, and that's what eternity will be primarily about. We get to grow together. But we think that stability is static.
Sure.
Is unchanging. And so we need to in order to understand how to manage and how to deal with change, we really need to have a right theology of it. Our job is not to protect God. He doesn't need our protection.
Do you think we think that about the church because, God doesn't change? We sing songs about how he's unchanging and he stays the same. So if he stays that way, then shouldn't the church also be unchanging and
he's
stay the
unchanging
same?
Because he is everything within and of himself. Doesn't mean he's not amazingly creative. Now, it's not like, he came up with a new thought all of a sudden. It's always been part of him. It's new to us.
Sure.
So we kind of think of that as unchanging. I think one of the ways we get messed up is as the role of the church. We think that our job is to, somehow change a lost world, and that's true. But our job isn't to change a lost world by forcing people or to act a certain way or protecting, morality. Our job is to do what? Is to introduce goodness. That's the gospel. The euangelion, the best news, is to bring the best news to the world and let the best news, the good news of Jesus, change. Our job is obedience. His job is results and change.
Yeah. What are some of the ways, maybe why are we so
resistant to it?
Yeah, why do we hesitate to change? Why do we try to avoid it?
Because we do. And there's sometimes we're more resistant to it than others, right?
Maybe even what are those times that really
and all of us.
stand out?
It's true of all of us.
Maybe
It's true of me.
it?
Yeah. We actually talked about this in early in the Grow podcast, and I'd have to go back and look at what episode it was where we were talking about Nehemiah at the time. And so in the book of Nehemiah, it talks about how Nehemiah came back to Jerusalem to help them rebuild the city, rebuild the walls. And there was a time when they were like, I think we're done. And there's this great series of verses. It's verse 10, 11, and 12 in chapter 4. And I just want to read these and listen to where they're tempted to stop letting change happen. He says, meanwhile, the people in Judah, so this is in Jerusalem, said, the strength of the laborers is giving out. When your strength is giving out, you're what? You're tired, right? And there's so much rubble, we can't rebuild the wall. They're overwhelmed. They were frustrated. They were angry. And they said, also our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to the work. So the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. So fear, we're going to die, or we're not going to be able to get this done. And so, being the good pastor that I am, I put this all in alliteration.
Shocker.
But 3 kinds of pressure.
Is this going to be the last alliteration you give us?
Maybe.
Join us the next couple weeks and find out.
Maybe 3 kinds of pressure that we experience that make us resistant to change.
I bet they all start with the same letter.
Yes. Fatigue or tiredness. I could have just said tired, but fatigue
But
works.
that wouldn't have worked.
Frustration or anger, where I just feel overwhelmed or angry. And then fear. And you think about those, when are you most resistant? When do you most want to control things? When I'm tired, when I'm frustrated with something, or when I'm scared of something? And I think early on, I won't retell the story now, but early on when we talked about this, in the first 20 episodes or so, somewhere in there, I talked about learning to ski and how I just hit this point. And the day I was learning to ski, where I just wanted to stop. I was just tired. I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to invent a new turn, the sit down, turn around, was kind of it.
Isn't that a song?
And I got frustrated.
Sit down, turn around.
Maybe.
Go to town, boot scoot moogie.
Yeah,
Is
thank you.
that what it is?
Thank you, Michael. I knew you'd have my back on that.
Of course, it's a country song.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I'm sad that I brought it up.
Yeah, it is.
I'm surprised you knew a country song.
Yeah.
There.
Me too.
And when you're feeling overwhelmed, I was overwhelmed, or when I was trying to teach Kylie how to ski, you just get frustrated, you get overwhelmed. What do? You start lashing out at people because it's never your own fault, right? When I was learning to ski, I just wanted to, those little kids that just ski by you when you're learning to ski and they don't ever fall. I'm like, can I just stab one of them with my pole?
Oh, my
You know,
word.
it's like, I just want to trip them up.
Can we get the wah wah
Yeah.
wah noise?
But you just, yeah.
But
you
he
hear
didn't.
how-
He did not do that.
I didn't do
That
it.
never happened.
But you hear how you can go there, right?
Sure.
Or you're afraid. I felt like giving up. I don't want to try this again. And you think about this like with what's happening in the changes in the church right now. You're tired. Early on, when I first came to New Hope, everything in our community in Williston was changing, and people were upset because the one thing they didn't want to change was the place that they thought should be stable, and that was the church.
Yeah.
And their view of stability is unchanging, doesn't grow. And so they were tired, so they get frustrated and failure. So you think about that. When it comes to yourself, that's when we resist change more than anything else.
Yeah. 2 questions.
Sure.
One, did you take an alliteration class in college at Oakwoo? Like, is that
They probably actually,
alliteration 101?
in communication teaching classes, they teach you it's easier for people to
to
remember.
remember stuff.
Yeah, so,
Sure.
yeah.
So we can give Oakwoo credit.
We can give
Oklahoma
them credit.
Wesleyan University.
Yeah.
Our intern is very excited.
Dr.
In the room 'cause
Mark
that's where Michaela
Weeder,
goes.
What was it called
who
when you
is
were there,
still
though?
teaching, even though he's older than dirt. It was Bartlesville Wesleyan College then, so it was BWC. Now it's
I don't
Oakwood.
know if I knew that.
Oklahoma Wesleyan University.
Did
Yeah.
I know that? I don't think I knew that.
It's come on.
It's one-
Bartlesville,
it's
what? It was Bartlesville.
Bartlesville Wesleyan College. So it's one of the antecedents of Oklahoma Wesleyan College. Before that, it was like Milton Vale and Pilgrim. There's multiple
Wow.
schools that have all come together over the years. Yeah.
My parents' old college, where I went, Crown College,
Where my parents went to school.
That's right. And same for them. It was St. Paul Bible College. Spebe, as
Spebe
they call
was
it.
what
Was
they
there
call
like because Oakwoo is what they call it now. Did you
Yeah.
have like a shorthand for it back in Bartlesville?
BWC was just what we said. Yeah. Because there was
Call it
no
like
way to go book.
Buwaka.
Yeah.
I go to Buwaka.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a
just
great
didn't
school
work.
where I learned alliteration.
Yeah.
All right.
Just didn't
That was the most important question
Yeah.
I had. Yeah, that was the most important one. But also, can you kind of take what we've been talking about with the fear and frustration and fatigue? Nailed it. I had to look for fatigue at my notes though. And can you put it practically into like what we're going through here at New Hope now?
Let me just give us 2 thoughts, just in the interest of time. One, be honest with yourself when you run into change. Recognize that the fact that I don't like this change, and talk about why. Process why. Is it just that I'm tired? I'm tired of change? Because sometimes we can have change fatigue. It's just too much changing, and we get that way, right? Michael's nodding his head. Yeah,
I got
Michael's
that.
there. Yeah.
Which is why, while you've been podcasting, he's chained you to this room, and now you cannot leave.
You know?
This was a plan.
Or is it fear? And acknowledge it. Scripture talks about the fact that there are times we'll get weary. In Galatians chapter 6 is you're going to grow weary in doing good. He said, recognize it and don't let it happen. Mm-hmm. Isaiah 35, Isaiah saying, say with those with fearful hearts, be strong and don't fear. Psalm 37 says, don't be angry. And basically the Bible is saying, recognize what's happening in you and stop it. And just put, and that's really a lot of just stop it, but recognize it and just be honest with yourself. Because I think when we try to get uber spiritual and say, okay, I'm supposed to be okay with this. I'm supposed to be okay with this. It's okay to say, I don't like this change.
Yeah.
There have been times, and, Michael, we've talked about this, like with the change happening in the church. There have been times we both said, I don't like this.
Correct.
Whether it's the most recent change or changes in the past.
Right. Michael has a long list.
I don't like this. Anytime Michael gets a little country in his worship leading, I say, I don't like this change. And Michael said, deal with it. But,
right.
Yeah, pretty much.
But then Pastor Mike pulled up that verse from Psalm and said, stop it.
Yeah, stop it. So recognize it. And then second, I think the second big thing is, make sure you, and I stole this term from someone else, pre-decide what you're going to do when you run into change that's uncomfortable. Because part of what happens is when we get into a place where change is uncomfortable, what do we want? We want relief. We want to escape. Think about what happened as people were during the pandemic. When people were locked down or coming out of the pandemic. People are going, you can't keep me home. We want relief from this. We just don't like it. Or, there's all kinds of terms for it coming out of that. People are like, now we're all going on vacation and we're going to spend the most money we've ever spent. We're going to go, why? Because we wanted relief. We wanted to escape from this. They've called it the great resignation coming out of it. Everybody's going, I'm just going to find a different job and one that I enjoy, all these kinds of things. So one of the things to pre-decide that is just healthy.
Before you get to those things, how can we pre-decide when we don't know what that change is going to like I couldn't have possibly foreseen a global pandemic and how that was going to change our life. So I might have been like, all right, like when my pastor leaves, like I'm going to be prepared. And then a pandemic happened and shut the whole world down. Like, how do I translate it from one thing to another?
It's a great question. I think part of it is not pre-deciding exactly what you're going to do, but pre-deciding how you're going to respond.
Okay.
So I'm not going to react. I'm going to respond. Responding means I choose something that I've already said, here's how I'm going to process this. Okay. React is boom, in the moment. Yep. I just respond. So one of the things that we pre-decide is I will not, and this is good for anything, I will not make a major decision when I'm stuck in one of those three areas of fatigue or fear or frustration. And even in work, we make this decision. We say, when we're kind of on the bottom of things, we'll go, I'm going to switch my job. I'm going to switch career when I'm on the very bottom. That's actually the worst time because you aren't thinking clearly. Yeah. You think most clearly when you're on the top. So we pre-decide this. When I'm the most frustrated, most tired, that's not when we're going to do it. Second thing is, I will make any change decision based on solid scriptural teaching and not my discomfort or my desire. So I'm going to pre-decide this. What does the Bible have to say about this? Not what does my preference have to say about this. So we're pre-deciding.
Like a preference in teaching style, for instance, or facial
music
hair.
style, or facial hair.
What if
or
our next pastor doesn't have a beard? Because I saw a picture of you today without a beard, and it startled me.
I threatened to shave it off, and one of my kids is like, "Don't you dare! I can't handle it." It's one of my kids that might hate change. Yeah. And I think, and we'll actually touch on this a little bit in episode 101. But recognize that the best growth tends, and I might even go as far as say always, comes through the biggest discomfort. Mm-hmm. So when I'm struggling, instead of trying to escape it, to step back and say, I think the biggest growth may be coming through this. So I don't have to enjoy it. I'm not saying I have to enjoy it, but let's go through the tunnel instead of avoiding it.
I can vouch for that as someone who grew like half a foot during 8th grade, and it was unpleasant, but I
Those
grew
growing
the most
pains,
during that time.
And I think the other thing we pre-decide is don't let my stuff, my struggle, become a tool for the enemy. Because what can happen when I'm struggling is my attitude goes south and I start spreading it to everybody else. I start getting frustrated, I start getting afraid, and I start spreading it to everybody else. Or I don't like, let's just put it in terms, I don't like something that's happening at church, something's happening at work, and I start talking about it in a gossipy, poisonous way. You need to process it, but process it with people who are mature, not people who will feed the negative. So 4 big decisions we're going to pre-decide. Don't make a major decision when you're caught up in one or more of those 3 things. Make any decision based on solid scriptural teaching. Go back to early in 2023 when we talked about Rehoboam and 8 questions to always ask when you're making a major decision or even a minor one. Recognize the best growth comes through the biggest discomfort, so don't avoid it. And don't let my stuff become a tool for the enemy to use to poison other people. Those are things we pre-decide when we're in the middle of change.
Yeah, that's good. We will put the 3 kinds of pressure that all start with the same letter, shockingly.
Yes.
And then those 4 things from the end, we'll make sure those are in either the podcast notes or the description on YouTube, so that you can find them in case you did not memorize them or take notes. Do you think people take notes while they listen to this podcast? Because
I don't know.
Note taking is very common, on a Sunday morning teaching.
I do know of one person who shared with me. He sits at his table and sits and writes stuff down.
Okay, let us know in the comments if you take notes on the Grow podcast.
How you doing over there, Michael?
I take notes.
It's good. Did you get some reading done back there?
Notes.
Yeah.
Did you make it through all of your theology books?
Them,
I through my whole shelf of books.
Yeah, we're just in time. So now, Michael, we're going to start firing some theological questions at Michael. Now that did you find any contradictions between the old theological book and the more modern one?
Just a few, but
nothing
major.
Too major.
Yeah,
Michael. Because you're here and you're not normally on the Grow podcast with us, and also because you were also beardless in that photo of Pastor Mike that I saw earlier today, which was equally jarring.
No, I had.
He had a little bit.
Did you?
It was a long time ago.
Should we put this picture in? I feel like we might need to put this picture in the podcast.
We'll have to ask our wives, maybe.
That's probably the best decision.
Because they were in it as well.
Yes.
But do you have a favorite memory of Pastor Mike that you like to share with us for
Nate's got to think really hard for
special
this.
episode 100.
You didn't give me enough time for this.
I'm springing it on you.
Because he can't narrow it to just one,
there's too many good memories of Pastor
not
Mike.
because it's too difficult.
Yeah.
See, I'm vamping here to give you time.
The photo that you're referring to was the photo of my wedding. Pastor Mike did mine and Melissa's
Your wife
wedding.
looked lovely.
She did. She still does.
And you were also there.
And I was there. And regret some of my facial hair choices and my hair choice. And
when I showed that picture to people today, I had a lot of people say, "Oh, look at Michael's hair."
I mean, I've never seen you I've never known you with that kind of hair. So it was definitely jarring for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, we interrupted you.
I was just saying that. I mean, you were part of my wedding, so it's kind of a cool memory.
He did the wedding. How did he do?
He did okay.
Did he tease you?
Probably. I don't remember.
We didn't know each other a ton yet. We've only known each other a couple of years at that point in time.
Year.
Yeah.
Mine was like a full-on roast of me, during the wedding ceremony, because my youth pastor did it.
Would be worth it.
And was very aware that Joanna was settling for me in that scenario. So he made sure to make everybody aware of it that was there.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you realized Melissa was settling on me.
Yeah, we
during the ceremony, he was like, this is not a good idea.
Kylan actually, we did your premarital.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
so he already knew
in the old building, the old office. So we all knew that. We tried to talk Melissa out of it.
They had a lot of private
once
meetings
or twice.
with her.
But
Kylie just begging her.
It was one of the more unique. I've done a lot of more unique wedding ceremonies I've done because people were sat in the round and they were in the middle.
circle worship.
Yeah.
Like circle worship. Except
So
Maverick City Music stole
every-
stole
maybe
your
they
bit.
did. That's
Every
They were
part
Chandler
of
Moore was
the
at your wedding.
every part of the ceremony, we would rotate kind of like a clock, so no
Oh,
one was
interesting.
staring at all of our backsides the whole time. So every part of it, we'd move
Could
to
have said
a different
backs.
part.
You decided to. It's episode 100.
that's what he was worried about.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you have a favorite New Hope memory, or maybe relate it to myself and maybe Michael, who's always our producer on the Grow podcast?
We talked about earlier. The most watched was the one that we recorded at Riverside Church.
So that was third.
Third.
Processing
Oh,
processing with
yeah.
Pastor Mike was the first
Yeah.
one, but yeah, that was the third most.
I don't count that one.
Sure.
But that was fun, just to be there,
was cool.
be off site, and do it someplace
Yeah.
else.
Yeah,
was
is
good. We
that
have
the
a lot of
only podcast we've recorded not in this room
I believe so.
with
so.
with this table?
Yeah.
It's been this table the whole time
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Did we have
Yeah.
these? Did we bring the microphones?
No.
No, we were using like the one that you
Yeah.
have, right?
No, we had lapels. I think.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
really?
we did.
The
Man,
lapels.
Yeah, that was fun. We've had a
that was
lot of
fun.
great conversations
We have.
sitting around this table over the years.
We'll have to.
2 years.
Can we get a? Will you come back for episode 200? that'll be you'll be 2 years gone by that point.
I would love to if I'm invited.
If you're invited.
Yes.
Okay. If invited, and if you're not invited, will you take it personally?
No. I won't.
Will you come to 199 instead?
Yeah,
If you're not
If I'm
invited?
not invited, I'll be
Yeah.
at all of them, and I'll be furious. You'll be a reminder for people. You're going to become the district superintendent of the Southwest.
Pacific Southwest District.
That's too many
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
The Pacific Southwest District,
Yes.
as opposed to the Atlantic Southwest District,
Right.
which we also have.
But they got to include
No,
Hawaii.
No, we don't, because that
No,
wouldn't
we
make
don't.
sense.
That wouldn't make sense.
Hawaii
Wait, is
is
Hawaii
included.
in your district?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's right. I forgot about that. And when do you need me to plant that?
Once you raise your own support,
I mean,
Does
come
the
talk to me.
Does the Southwest District need a podcast host in Hawaii specifically?
We
Is
might need a
that-
podcast
I'm-
host, but I don't think
I'm
Hawaii.
definitely not your answer for a church plant there, but if you need someone to host a podcast there, I think I could help you
Yeah,
out.
I'm sure.
I'd be willing to just
very
do vision
generous of
trips
you.
like once a
Yeah.
year for you.
you both
need
are
it.
so generous with these.
Just
Yeah.
let us know, Pastor Mike,
Yeah.
and we'll even record a Grow podcast
Yes.
from Hawaii
Yeah,
when
let's do
Pastor
it.
Mike
Yeah.
sends us there.
It's all right.
Well, I still can't believe it's been 100 episodes.
I can't either.
I also can't believe we only have 2 more together after this.
I know it.
Which is sad and exciting because as sad as we are that Pastor Mike is leaving, we are more than confident that God is in this decision,
Yeah.
which means that while it will be a good thing for you and for the Pacific Southwest District, it also means it's a good thing for New Hope.
Yeah.
Because if God is in your decision to leave, then he is certainly in whoever's going to be coming next.
And the timing and everything.
Yep. And so
Yep.
there's going to be amazing stuff ahead. So I know that for most of us, myself included, the reason we love the Grow podcast is because we love Pastor Mike, we love his teaching, and we love getting to go deeper. But make sure that you're continuing to come back and stick with us because, as we already mentioned, Pastor Leo is incredible, and that's
Yep.
going to be a great time. And then when that new person comes and whatever things look like after that interim period, God's still going to be doing amazing stuff through New Hope. So we're so glad that you are part of our New Hope family. We really, really love you. I know I say that every single episode, but I say it because I mean it. We love you, New Hope family. We're so glad that you were with us, and we will see you next week.